Good guys, Automotive Performance reporting to you live from the bunker in Tinley Park, Illinois. Um, Many of you know if you watch my YouTube channel that I make videos for my customers. So I'm going to go ahead and make a video for my customer David. This is his 2014 Ford Escape with a transmission issue that we're working through. This is our 1970 Chevelle SS project. We're building a 383 LS stroker, 650 horsepower for this bad boy, and gonna run some quick quarter mile times when this is done. But anyway, to the task at hand, this is our this is a 2014 Ford Escape with a transmission problem. It just wouldn't go into any gears, wouldn't move. It's the SE EcoBoost. It's the 1.6 liter turbo motor, and so when I did some diagnostics, I found out that we had real high. First, I thought it was a no pressure issue because the thing wouldn't go into any gear. Well, then I realized that when you go ahead and start it up initially for a couple of seconds, you get a spike. You get a real high transmission pressure. I put my tester on the transmission, and there's a port here on top where you can plug your pressure gauge into and see the line pressure, and it spiked up to all the way to 300, and then it actually blew a hole in my gauge. It blew my gauge off the thing. So we're not supposed to have transmission pressures, in excess of 300 psi in idle in park. So my theory is that there's a regulator valve in the transmission pump. It's just a mechanical valve, and there's a spring on it, and it's common for those springs to break, and the regulator valve gets smashed all the way over to one side, and then the transmission line pressure is super high. And then what happens is it bleeds off. There's a relief valve in there that slowly opens up, and then it just bleeds all the pressure off, and then you get no pressure. So that's what I think is going on. We got to get the transmission out and open it up and get a look at it. So there's quite a bit with this turbo motor in the way. Originally, when I opened the hood, you can't even see the transmission. This is all the stuff, all these parts on the ground here, starting here, including this axle here. All these parts all along here is everything I took out already, just to be able to go ahead and get down to the transmission. And then on the suspension, you got to drop the axles out. So I came down here, and I got this right side axle out, and the tie rod disconnected and ball joint, and that axle came out yesterday. And this morning I'm working on it, and I'm over on the other side here, and you got to take this fender apart, and you got to take the suspension apart on this side and go ahead and get this axle out. And then I can just there's one more. I had to take the inner fender liner out. Up here there's one more transmission line that needs to come off, and then there's the couple of mounts and the bell housing bolts. I already did the torque converter bolts, so those were fun getting to those. But anyway, so moving right along. So here's the issue now that I'm concerned with. At some point here we can see there was an accident, whatever this little collision was here. And so what happened was, because the computer was acting funny before, and I'm just giving you a heads up on this, this is where the computer lives, inside here, inside the inner fender. And there's a plastic case that encloses the computer. This is to keep your water out and keep it weatherproofed, and keep it safe. And so when this accident happened, this case was broken back, and it was open up like this on the top. And David, you had said to me that you went through a puddle a week or so ago that was really deep, and was deeper than you thought it was. And there is evidence of water contamination inside this computer box. You can see all the dirt here. Dirty water was in here, and the water, eventually drained out and dried away, but it left dirt and corrosion all over these terminals and garbage. This should be perfectly clean in here, because it's a sealed unit. There should be no weather, no moisture, no dirt, no nothing, no bugs. There shouldn't be anything in there. But unfortunately, whenever this accident happened, it broke this case open. And since then, dirt and bugs and water and all kinds of garbage has been getting into the computer. And if you know anything about computers, electronics like that can't be exposed to those type of elements. It's going to cause problems. So I was having issues connecting to the computer before. I kind of got through that, and my diagnosis led to the what I suspect is that that valve inside the transmission pump. But there's also some solenoids in there that are, and everything's controlled by this computer here. All the fuel injection and the timing, the spark, the ignition on the engine, the emissions and also the transmission is all controlled here by this computer. And so it's possible there's additional issues. What I'm going to do is this case I ordered from Ford. It's like 60 bucks, a new case. And what I can do is I'm going to take this computer out. I'm going to clean just externally and clean these connections with electronics cleaner. It's plastic safe electronics cleaner that's, it's made to, clean this stuff up. And I'm going to clean everything out and put it back together, and I'm going to put it in the new case and seal it back up and put it in here. And we're going to try to run it, and if it works, it works. If there's issues with it, then that might be something else that we have to address. So that's where I'm at. It's about noon right now, so I've got a lot of work ahead of me still. As far as the rest of the way getting this transmission out, which I'm going to do today, I'll have it actually out, and then I can start the teardown on it, over the next couple of days, and check that out internally and see what all is going on inside the transmission. But also the brakes down here, brake pads, there's nothing left on these. These are going to start grinding. You might want to consider doing these while it's in here, because what's on here right now is not going to last very long. There's not even a millimeter on the brake pads left. And then also, I don't know, this fender, if you wanted to, I could get you a price on the fender, and we can put a new fender on it, paint match it, and put it back together like it never even happened. As far as the bumper goes here, the less expensive, the bumper is cracked a little bit, and there's some gouges in it here you can see. The more expensive way to do it is to replace the whole bumper and paint it and put it back together, and that makes it perfect. But probably I could just touch this up with some touch-up paint that's color match. It won't be like brand new, but you won't see it. It'll look good, unless you stare right at it or what happened. I mean, it's not going to be as good as a new bumper, but I can sand this out, and then I can add a little bit of paint, and that with a new fender, it would make all of this go away, and it would look like there was never an accident. So I would recommend touching this bumper up here. That's the less expensive way to do it. There's nothing we can do to repair this fender. It's too smashed. You can see how the sheet metal's all bent and torn open. But we get a replacement fender and just paint it for you and match the paint and then install it. And then that would be solved. So you got a couple other issues that I wanted to bring to your attention. Possible PCM issues. Brakes need to be changed, and then I don't know if you want to address the fender, but just showing you what I find as I go along. So we are down to the transmission now. Like I said, a couple more things. I got to get this side axle out. I'm addressing that PCM box, and then I'm going to get the rest of the bolts and the mounts out and drop the transmission down so I can start working on that rebuild. So, but I just wanted to make you a video. I do for a lot of my customers so that you can see the progress and see what's happening. And you can follow along. So, Good Guys Automotive Performance, 224-633-0012 or www.goodguysautomotiveperformance.com. Give us a call when you're ready to look good. Give us a call when you're ready to go fast. And we'll see you at your next service.